Hi guys, my name is Natalie, aka DJ NB, aka Scatterly 2.0, and welcome to my YouTube channel. There have been a few people who have commented on some of my YouTube videos that the audio quality is very piss poor. So as you can see, I've got myself a professional condenser mic, so now you can listen to all of my future and current YouTube videos in crystal clear Dolby surround sound. So now you've got nothing to worry about. Thank you very much for joining me on this little tiny corner on this gargantuan platform. I have reached 27,000 subscribers on my YouTube channel, and I just want to say thank you very much for every single person who clicks, who watches, who replays, who shares, who subscribe onto this YouTube channel. I know I've been a little bit quiet recently with my YouTube upload schedule. However, I have been uploading a lot of this footage which I shot in Turkey while I was there earlier this year. And let me tell you, it does take a lot of time to get through and edit and then put a video together that actually makes coherent sense. And I've got 72 hours of color graded raw footage which I am just looking at the moment, so it does take me a little bit of time to put together. So in the meantime, I decided to make this commentary video because while I was in Turkey, it was a very interesting experience. The shops, the restaurants and the entertainment is very similar to what you'll be able to find in Western Europe. However, it's still extremely different with the language, the currency and the language barrier. So Istanbul used to be a place backpackers bragged about, where a plate of kebab and a ferry ride and a hotel room barely dented your budget. The reputation has gone now. In 2026, the city is quietly one of the more expensive places to visit in Asia and Europe, and it's one of the hardest places in the region to actually live. So what has happened? Grab yourself a mug of your Turkish tea or your caffeinated beverage. I've got myself a latte today because this one goes in deep. Currency collapses, a brand new tax law that's turning the country into a haven for the ultra wealthy, power cuts, water shortages, and a citizenship market that's reshaping who actually owns Istanbul. Let's start with the number that explains almost everything else in this video: the exchange rate. Traveling to Istanbul was nerve-wracking. I didn't speak the language and the culture is very different. I couldn't understand the exchange rate for cash. The language barrier was also a huge issue at the hotels, at the restaurants, when getting an Uber. Back in 2018, $1 bought you around 4.5 lira. By 2021, that had climbed past 8 lira. Today, in mid-2026, the dollar is trading at roughly around 47 to 48 lira. Over the last 24 months alone, the lira has lost close to 70% of its value against the dollar. Stretch that out further and the currency has shed more than 90% of its worth since 2018. Here's the part most people miss though. The central banks isn't just letting the lira fall, it's managing that fall. Officials have been running a deliberate slow motion devaluation, selling off foreign currency reserves to stop the lira from crashing all at once. It's a controlled hemorrhage rather than a free fall, but it's still a bleed. And it comes at a cost. Propping up the currency artificially means Turkey is burning through its reserves it may need later. Meanwhile, inflation hasn't gone away. Officials are now projecting inflation could land around 26% by the end of 2026, above the government's own earlier target range. Independent estimates have put that real number even higher. So you've got a currency that is losing value and prices climbing at the same time. That combination is what's crushing ordinary households. This is the part that confuses a lot of visitors. If the lira is collapsing, shouldn't Turkey be cheaper for everyone holding euros, dollars or pound sterling? In theory, yes, but in practice, no.
My what? No, you're not taking my bag.
Jacket or
you're not,
bags,
no,
we accept ring, we accept...
Yep, that's me. You're probably wondering how I ended up in this situation.
It's okay.
Everything, you know?
No, it's okay. No, I'll keep all of this.
Because local prices are rising even faster than the currency is falling. So if the lira drops 20%, but a hotel, a restaurant, or an Uber driver raises its lira price by 40% to cover its own rising costs, you're still paying more, even after the exchange rate math. Multiply this across restaurants, taxis, hotels, and museum tickets, and the cheap Turkey discount tourists remember from a decade ago has basically disappeared. Let's put the real numbers on the table because this genuinely surprises people. If you go to the Galata Tower alone, it's around $35, more than the Leaning Tower of Pisa. The Hagia Sophia is about $30 or nearly double that for a shorter queue. The Basilica Cisterns, which is where I visited, is around $43, climbing up to about $66 for a night visit. And Topkapi Palace will cost you around $61, nearly triple that of the Louvre. Add it up and a single day hitting the Istanbul's core sites plus 2 basic meals can land somewhere between $220 and $300 for one person before you've even paid for a hotel bed. That is not what a budget destination looks like anymore. For years, the government have kept interest rates artificially low, even as inflation soared. The opposite of what most central banks are advised to do in order to cool down prices. That policy has since reversed, with the rates pushing dramatically higher, but the earlier damage to savings, wages, and the trust in the currency hasn't been undone. Turkey imports a huge share of its energy, raw materials, and industrial components. When the lira weakens, everything bought from abroad, fuel, fertilizer, steel, electronics, vehicles, as well as consumables and perishable goods, gets more expensive in lira terms, and that costs get passed straight down to the consumers. Geopolitical tensions, conflict in the wider region, including the ongoing war involving Iran, has pushed energy prices higher and made international investors nervous about anything being tied in the Middle East, Turkey included. That regional instability also affects tourism demand, as some travellers simply avoid going to the area altogether. Here is where the story takes a genuine strange turn. While ordinary Turkish citizens are getting squeezed by inflation, the government's just rolled out one of the most aggressive tax incentives in the world for newcomers.
Together with the 1% inheritance tax, this is a game changer. So you can repatriate your assets, pay 2% tax, a one-off repatriation tax, your assets, your securities, your gold, your foreign currency deposits, etc., etc., stay in Turkey tax-free forever. And here's another interesting thing. Now, this is very interesting. Turkey promises not to audit the source of these assets. I'm not going to say anymore. There is a no audit clause within the reform. No audit clause. Now, Switzerland. What was the biggest thing about Switzerland?
Secrecy.
Yes. It's over now because Switzerland signed up to CRS. So they have to report, and they do report. So there's no more secrecy. So that almost killed Swiss bank accounts, certainly for Americans and a few other jurisdictions. So Turkey is saying, hey,
Bring it here.
Come here.
Because now you've got people who are bragging that they are buying new, high-profile and very expensive, high-ticketed properties in Turkey in areas which cater for the ultra-rich and the ultra-high net worth individuals and the high net worth individuals who may want to go to Turkey, opting for different areas around Istanbul as well as the tourist areas in Turkey.
This is what I dream home!
Here in Bodrum, Turkey, which means we can now get our Turkish passport!
Woo! Wait, did I mean I'm Turkish now?
As opposed to going to anywhere in the Gulf states, such as Abu Dhabi, Dubai, or anywhere in that region.
Turkey is targeting 4 main classes. 1, high net worth individuals. Why? 0% foreign income tax, 1% inheritance tax. These are definitely geared toward high net worth individuals. These could be crypto people, these could be technology people, AI people, and knowing that lately in the world, and in my opinion in years to come, big money will definitely be shifting toward AI technology, and which is exactly what Turkey wants to import more and more. So big tick.
Under a new law passed in mid-2026, foreign individuals who become Turkish tax residents can get over a 20-year exemption from Turkish income tax on their foreign earned income, salaries, dividends, rental income, capital gains, all of it, as long as it's sourced from outside of Turkey. There is no entry fee. To qualify, you simply can't have been a Turkish tax resident during the last 3 years. Alongside it, the government has introduced an asset peace program, letting people declare previously undisclosed foreign assets, like cash, gold, securities, at a sharply reduced tax rate, with a deadline stretching into mid-2027. There's also a reduced 1% inheritance tax rate for people covered by this exemption, compared to a standard rate that can reach into double digits. On paper, this is designed to pull in wealthy individuals, entrepreneurs, and tech founders who might otherwise set up in Dubai, Lisbon, and Malta. But it raises an obvious question: who guarantees this deal actually holds for 20 years? Turkey has rewritten its own economic rulebook multiple times in the last 10 years. Currency reforms, central bank leadership purges, sudden policy reversals. A tax break that sounds permanent today is still subject to whatever government is in power in 2036. For now, it's a genuine draw. Long term, it's a risky bet.